is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. It's Dean 7904 if you want to get all technical on me. I need a haircut. It's 5:30 on the East Coast, 2:30 on the West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time. Of course, it's just time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It is called Grinderslive. Joining me today, the winner of multiple six-figure JPP takedowns, the owner of numerous amounts of RJ Barrett rookie cards. We may be talking about that later tonight. There's a little tease, a little synergy. We're talking sports cards at 7:30. It's a new show here at Rotogrinders. It's at Chief Justice. Will, what's going on, dude?
Nothing much, my brother. Semi big slate tonight. Definitely excited to come on with you. I checked the schedule. I think we're going to have a few more of these parties on Tuesday. So it's going to be a good time. I'm definitely excited to come on, hang out with the viewers, hang out with you. It's just going to be good. I love this slate. I was talking earlier, pre-show. Typically, I have my player pool down a lot earlier than this. But, I was working on some sports card content today.
Yeah.
And, so I didn't get my pool down as early. But don't you worry. As the show is progressing, you will hear clicks, because I will be Xing a lot of players out as we go through this thing.
Yeah, and we didn't even rehearse that or anything. But, yeah, there is some synergy. We do have Tambo will be joining us, too, 7:30 later on tonight. New show, Tuesday nights. Check it out. It's interactive as well. Much like this show is interactive. That said, what up, YouTube? Feel free to like, subscribe. If you're asking questions, there's a conversation in the YouTube chat. Our fabulous multitasking producer, Devin D-Train, he's going to join the show later. You're actually going to see his face. If you haven't seen it just yet, you're going to hear his voice. I think you see his face. I'm fairly certain. He's in control of such things. If he likes your question, if it's a good question, we prefer, in theory, like big questions, like game theory questions or lineup building questions. You could ask a 2v2. You could ask a 1v1. Sure, why not? 3v3? I don't know. Maybe. Will might give me the stink eye. We don't want to do 3v3s, do we? We don't want to do
that. Let's try to avoid 3v3s. 2v2s are good. 1v1s. If we're getting into 3v3s, in my head, that's almost like you may want to change your whole lineup construction type deal.
Yeah. So again, what's up, YouTube? Like, subscribe. That helps out with the analytics and the whole deal. Click the notifications, caress the like button.
And let me say this too, Dean. Man, I'm cutting you off in the middle of your brilliant intro here.
Yeah.
But here's how you get away from a whole bunch of 3v3s. You just multi-enter, you lock in the guys you like, and you let it mix and match around, and it'll give you all the 3v3s and 5x5s that you like.
Well, not all of us have Will kind of. We don't have that kind of money necessarily. We don't win like six-figure tournaments on the reg like you do.
Stop it.
We live in the world of a salary cap, and we live in the world of financial ramifications. I can only afford so much. All right. Yeah. So again, we're here for the next 45 minutes or so. We're going to be talking to somebody from our projection teams. SBK, you guys know him. Some people know him as Keach. He's going to tell us what's going on in the war room. Let's call him the war room. Sure, why not? That hasn't been taken in DFS, has it? Oh wait, maybe it has. We're going to call it. It has not been copywritten. But so we're going to talk to Keach as far as what's going on, with the lineup HQ, what sort of decisions are being formulated, what's popping as far as ownership. It's an interesting slate. Let's get to the body parts. Let's talk about the slate as a whole. We know Cat's going to be out for a while. He's got that wrist. He's going to be out for a while. And Naz Reid is he's not been, the salary is not adjusted enough. He should grab the start. He's a little handsy, but he's a really strong fantasy point minute player, and he's super chalky, makes things work. Teammate Josh Kokogie's out with a hammy. Jimmy Butler's got an ankle, so he's unlikely to play. I don't think he's officially ruled out just yet. Doubtful. Al Horford's old. He's got a rest. He's got an old neck officially. He's out. George Hill, last I saw, he's questionable with the neck, and he's back-to-back, and he's got an old too. I think he's not going to play. We shall see. Wrong about LeBron last night. Hey, you got to take the L sometimes. Laurie Markkanen's got a leg. He's questionable with that leg. Radfad Young expected back. He is probable. The Knicks are I don't know if Alec Burks officially is Burks officially
I think he's
out?
officially out at this point.
Okay, I saw doubtful when I wrote it down not too long ago. Obi Toppin is out. Quickly's out. Rivers is still out. DSJ is still out. So they are super, super thin as far as New York when it comes to the guards. And one of the biggest, Kawhi Leonard's got a mouth, right? And he's questionable. I'm not sure if you saw this. It was in Andy's article. This is the tricky thing. This is one of the big overarching themes.
I read the article.
Yeah, so his sister claims, allegedly, according to a tweet, his sister claims that he's going to play tonight. But
Inside track.
It's the
I'm
front of
almost
a back-to-back.
inclined to believe these family members. Uncle Dennis told us he wasn't coming back to Toronto, and lo and behold, Uncle Dennis is right. We may need to trust these family members, people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe the whole family is just like that. They're happy to like break news for the people out there. The tricky
They
part
care about the
is
fantasy players.
it's a 10-game slate, right? Will, and maybe I'm looking at it kind of sort of somewhat like an NFL slate because we got 7 early games and we have a break of 2 hours and 3 late games, right? Yes. So like the Magic and the Thunder are 8 o'clock, and then we have New Orleans, Phoenix, 10 o'clock, and then 2 more games go off at 10 o'clock as well. So 3 10 o'clock games. And I don't know if we're going to know about Kawhi. And it's the front of a back-to-back, and teams are more likely to be resting guys on back-to-back for various reasons this year, obviously with the COVID season. So maybe they just say, screw it, and it's Minnesota. Like in theory, I don't know who they're playing tomorrow. I meant to look. I don't know who it is, but I'm going to guess that their opponent tomorrow night is a little bit tougher than the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. Maybe he just plays both games. I don't know. And, other group, it's just me. Maybe I'm being paranoid, Will, but Denver Nuggets at the Sacramento Kings. I know it's a back-to-back. I know there's some travel. That line looks squirrely to me, man. I just don't trust that line. That line looks goofy. I know Denver's 1-2 and Sacramento's 2-1, but I feel like something's goofy. I feel like something's up with Denver. I don't trust Mike Malone in the back-to-back. I know they didn't play their full minutes because of a blowout last night. Is that just me being paranoid, or is that possibly a thing?
Well, maybe Vegas is giving Sacramento credit for winning, possibly. But I'm with you. I definitely can read into that. It seems like on paper Denver would kind of, I don't want to say stomp Sacramento, but they would win. Maybe the line should be more like -6.5, and so we're at -2. I totally get it. Yeah, I totally get it. I can definitely see your side, but Sacramento's been playing better. It's funny what happens when Buddy Hield's your primary shooting guard. You don't have to split minutes between him and 5 other people.
Are you a heel truther?
Story for another day.
Are you a heel truther?
No, I'm not a heel truther, but he definitely didn't deserve to get buried on the bench playing 20 minutes a game sometimes. I mean, the guy deserved at least 28 minutes a game, and he just wasn't getting that last year. So anyway, story for another day.
That Sacramento organization just as a whole is a bit of a disaster. And didn't Vlade Divac promise to step down if he's like, if I do this and it screws up, I will leave? And I don't think he's left, right? And he screwed up plenty, but again, story for another day. It's a 10-game slate. We don't have time for that nonsense, and it's DFS. All we care about is today. We don't care about what Vlade Divac did 2 years ago.
Correct.
So you were talking pre-show about the idea it's a 10-game slate, whittling down your player pool. But we should say, if you don't hear the player you're on, it's a 10-game slate. We're not intentionally ignoring guys. We're not going to just run off a bunch of names. Like if we don't say Jason Tatum, he's a fine play. Like I'm not going out of my way to play Tatum. I'm probably not going to have much, if any, but he's still fine. So if you don't hear us say his name, he's fine. He's playable, sure, but probably not the top of my list. How do you whittle down your player pool? How do you make it work as far as a 10-game slate?
Man, good question, D. One of the first things I do is I just, I get rid of the players that I know I'm not going to play at all. So, what's going to happen is you're going to pull up Lineup HQ. You can sort this a whole lot of ways. You can sort it by ownership. You can sort it by projected fantasy points. You can sort it by minutes. You can sort it by point per dollar. Typically, I'm probably going to start with point per dollar because I don't want to miss something. And I think a lot of times, even when I'm, training other players or talking to other players, trying to help them improve, one of the things I always say, don't leave stones unturned. You would be surprised how easy it is to miss someone that's projected nicely by just not clicking the point per dollar button and sorting it from highest to lowest. You can easily miss a player like that. And I think a prime example of that was, yesterday's one of the core plays. And I know we're talking about yesterday, but it was Dylan Brooks. How in the world was he 3,700? I have no idea. But, if you don't kind of look through and sort, that's something you could legitimately miss because typically, as a fantasy player, we're not going to scroll all the way to the bottom and start at 3,500. We're going to start at the top and say, okay, who's it? And then you kind of gloss over the $3,700 player. But when we've got this fantastic, Lineup HQ tool, if you sort by point per dollar, that will help you not miss some of the nuggets that are there right out of the gate. And then it's up to me to decide, do I believe in this projection? You know, is it someone I want to play today? Do I feel like it's a good matchup? Is it, are the stars aligning for me to keep them in my player pool? Those are the types of things I look at. And then I look at guys that I feel like are maybe a little bit off on the projection. So like for me today, and I guess we can kind of start with that. I know SBK is coming in. A guy for me today is a guy like Kobe White, who, he's a little bit cheaper on FanDuel at $5,900. Obviously, the price has come down. Haven't really seen the performances we've been looking for, which is great for us. And today he's got a spot with Washington. And because of these bad performances, his ownership is down to about 11%. Now, if Kobe White would have been dropping 40 burgers, the first 3 games of the season, he'd probably be priced like Darius Garland. And he'd probably have ownership around 25, 30% because it's Washington. But because of the bad performances, he's not, we don't have him projected as well as I think he could be today. So he's a guy that I'm definitely going to be over the field on. And so those are kind of some of the things I look at. I look at guys like Kyle Lowry, where the median projection has them in the mid-30s. But look at these guys' minutes. Lowry's going to play 36, 37 minutes most games. Same thing for Brogdon. And look, most of the time they're going to hit this projection. But Kyle Lowry, we've got him projected. I'm looking at FanDuel today. We've got him projected at 5%. We've got Brogdon projected at 2%. Are you telling me that Brogdon can't score 50, that Lowry can't score 50? At these prices, I'm willing to take a chance on guys like that. And that's how I start whittling down my player pool, right? That's how I get there. I start Xing out guys that I just don't like. And then I start saying, okay, out of this group, who do I like more? Typically what will happen is, and you just got to fill me in if SBK is on the line. What will happen is if I really, especially on FanDuel where you're kind of locked into these positions, if I lock in a guy, I'm typically going to try to get that player pool down to about 5 guys. Like I'm not going to try to play 10 guys when I'm locking in one guy. I usually only do that if I'm not locking someone. So that's kind of a strategy. I'm telling you right now, I'm locking in Elf Payton today. There's just no reason for me not to. He's 4,800, 100% of my lineups. He's going to be in there. Guaranteed.
When has Chalk Elf Payton ever crushed us? When has that ever happened?
Listen,
remember.
He's not 6K. He's 4,800. Elf Payton could get 25 points, and I can still win a GPP at 4,800. The stars would have to align. Look, everything else would have to go perfectly. But at 4,800, I think Elf's going to get 32 to 35 minutes today. We've got it projected at 30. I'm hitting the lock button. It is what it is. I'll live with the results. I think the process is solid. And then now I'm just whittling through saying, okay, who are the other 4 or 5 guys that I want to rotate around Elf? Another bold stance that I'm taking on FanDuel today, and I would take the same stance on DK. I'm just going to lock in Andre Drummond. I think Andre Drummond goes for 50 to 60 today. I'm hitting the lock button. Look, I'm an aggressive tournament player.
Let me give you a counterpoint, and I don't disagree.
Sure.
I made a Drummond lineup, and I don't think he's a bad play. And I know his upside's immense, especially when he gets those stocks going, which he can get 7 or 8 or 9, and double as well, pretty easily, pretty handily. And a matchup against New York, I'm perfectly fine with. The counterpoint is there's a bunch, like 4 or 5 centers on FanDuel at 5K that can all hit 40. And then that opens up everything else, the rest of your lineup. And it's like, well, would you rather have 55, 60 from Drummond or 40 from the 5K guy? And now I don't know which one of the 5K guys are going to do it. And we have the volatile Mitchell Robinson. We got Wendell Carter, another volatile player.
Yeah.
Thomas Bryant is at 5.2K. Wiseman, his minutes are going to get increased soon enough. Like that's going to happen. And we've seen his upside. And he's another guy that's like super athletic and get some stocks going as well. I really like that area. Now I deliberately went up on Drummond. I deliberately went up. I played a BAM lineup, and I think I have an Ayton lineup as well too, because I wanted to get away from that 5K area. But I think that's like when you talk dollar for dollar. Of course, raw points matter too, and you don't get any extra points for saving your salary, so you might as well spend it on the guys who are going to get the higher raw points. For maybe there's no crowns for it or nothing like that. Yeah. But that's sort of the dollar for dollar. Drummond's not the best dollar for dollar center. Of course, he can put up 60 or 65. And those 3 of those 4 or 5K guys can crush. And then it's like, well, what did everything else get? Did the high price guys go off at other positions where I save salary because I had the 5K guy at center? It's just a whole lineup construction conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like I said, it's personal preference. That's another thing too. You've got to be confident in your process. And I've got confident enough. I've become confident enough in my process over the years where I feel like I got a good handle on when I need to hit that lock button and when I need to say, this isn't the right slate to do that. You know what I'm saying? And so, you have to be comfortable enough with the projections. You use the projections to your advantage. so forth and so on. I don't want to cut in SBK. So if SBK's coming in, I'll cut myself short. If he's not on yet, Devo or Dean, not yet, great, I'll continue. So you've got to get comfortable enough in your process, but don't leave stones unturned, people. I can't say that enough. You're shooting yourself in the foot if you don't do your part in taking in all the information you can to make the informed decisions. Now, I do want to hop over to DK as well. I don't want people to think I'm not going to be
the chat saying nobody plays on Fanduel. Plenty of people playing Fanduel. I know a lot of sharps.
Yeah.
A lot of we play DK too. I'm playing a bunch of money on DK tonight as well, and we'll cover it. Don't worry about it. We're going to be all over it.
But I did want to hop over there because I think a guy that's big over there. Look, I would lock Elf in on both sides, so I don't want anybody to think I'm locking Elf on Fanduel and I'm not doing it on DK. He's 5,500 on DraftKings. I would literally do the exact same thing. Now, some of the other guys I may not lock that I would lock on FanDuel, but Elf and Drummond, I'm telling you right now, both sites, lock button. And Drummond is even a better play on DraftKings today at 8,400. So that's just my personal stance on it. And then I think if I was going to do any type of run backs, I'm going to tell you right now, I've already stacked this full game 4 or 5 different ways. You know, you leave off this person here because I think this is the game of the night. Now, I could absolutely be wrong. Somebody could come out and lay a stinker, but, you know, that's going to give me leverage. And watch this. I'm going to hop back to FanDuel because I think this is important. Darius Garland's price on FanDuel is very high, and nobody wants to play him. And I'm going to have plenty in those game stacks. I think SBK is in. I'm going to shut up and let him come on and give us the magic sauce.
We'll put that conversation on layaway for sure, but all right, let's bring in SBK. Oh, and chat, just when you're asking questions and we're not necessarily ignoring them, Devin, if you guys are just joining us now, hit the like button, subscribe, notifications, all that. We do appreciate it. Helps with the analytics, you know, and it's a free show. It doesn't cost you anything. It takes you about, 3 seconds or so to touch that like button. If you're asking questions, Devin's going to be joining the show later, our producer, and he's going to be, firing some questions our way. In theory, it's a lightning round. We shall see. We prefer big questions as opposed to this guy or that guy. We'll handle those as well, too. All right, Keach, SBK. We talk mostly FanDuel. Let's pivot to DK. What are we looking at as far as Devin's going to go ahead and show off our fabulous lineup HQ tool. If you guys don't have access to it, you want to use it at your own leisure, you can get $10 off your first month. The link's going to be dropped in chat for you guys. You can get it a la carte, just one sport, or all the sports as a package deal with the exception of NASCAR. Keach, what's going on, dude?
What's going on, brother? How you guys doing?
We were just about to pivot to the conversation of DK and like chalk Mike Muscala on a 10-game slate. How does that make you feel?
I mean, we've been kind of having this conversation in the projection Slack. We just there's just no value you can really feel confident in. I mean, Muscala, there's really not much depth behind him there, so he's really been the only other guy to see center minutes behind Horford so far. So. I mean, he's going to play. He hasn't really been an efficient per minute guy. Even when he has gotten minutes, he's kind of oddly struggles to rebound, it seems like, when he's out there. But yeah, I mean, he's, it's kind of just the nature of the slate. He is sadly kind of looking like one of the better value options we have right now.
Yeah, we were talking to FanDuel, and I'll just say this: you're going to like your FanDuel lineups so much better than your DK lineups. If you compare them side by side, just the way the prices are. FanDuel lineups are ridiculous. It's almost like a pickup. It's like, this is so good. And DK, it's like you're considering Muscala. If you really, if you want to be squeamish, Nick for Frank Ntilikina, maybe kind of sees 3.1K and the guards are really, really thin as far as New York. I don't feel good about it, but if he makes everything else work, I suppose. Who's your favorite cheapie? Is there somebody you guys are debating besides Muscala there, Keach, to make things work? These aren't the guys you necessarily love, but they help you get the guys you do love.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It's definitely not Frank. It's definitely not Frank. He's just, I feel like I feel the same way as you guys do. Even just considering that just kind of makes me want to vomit. The one situation injury-wise that we're kind of still tracking, and I feel like that we've been talking about really all day, is George Hill with Oklahoma City. They have obviously already ruled Horford out, but we're kind of leaning toward him sitting at this point, just kind of how they handled Horford. It's a little bit surprising that if they were going to rule him out, they didn't kind of do it at the same time. But we're still kind of leaning toward him sitting. If that happens, we've kind of run some things, and Diallo is one guy that
or Dort.
DraftKings Dort. I think he's already kind of an option regardless of what happens with Hill. But Diallo and Theo Maledon are two guys that I think will start to pop, assuming that Hill's ruled out and those minutes start to get redistributed to. Those are two guys who will probably benefit more than anybody else. in terms of minutes. So they're two guys that if we project Hill out, that would probably pop. And on DraftKings, I mean, it might kind of make sense to play one of them, just given that there's really not much in toward that minimum price that looks appealing. So Diallo we have with the slight edge currently, assuming that Hill sits. So that's kind of an interesting one. One name that I've been thinking about that I really haven't heard anybody else mention is Seth Curry with Perkon Korkmaz is out. They're talking about maybe giving Matisse Thybulle some run. But obviously those two are very different, he and Korkmaz. So I think Seth Curry's kind of still a little bit in that mid-range where it's not super comfortable to pay for him, but he's another guy that, especially on sites that rewards for three-pointers,
Sure.
He's a guy I would not mind looking at.
Yeah, I was looking at, like, if you want to be completely off the reservation as far as OKC, like, they're not playing for anything. They're playing for their future, lottery, ping pong balls. Like, is Poku completely nuts? Like, we've seen him in the preseason. He did some things in a few amount of minutes. He's, like, still minimum, essentially. If he gets, like, 18 minutes, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being goofy, but I think Poku's kind of sort of somewhat interesting. And I was watching some Maladon highlights, Frenchman, on YouTube today. It's like, who is this guy? I was learning about him.
Get creative here, SBK. Get creative.
Big time.
We're going to let you go, get back to it. And, like, I think that you talked about it as far as the injuries there in OKC, what we're calling them injuries. I suppose they gave him an injury tag. But George Hill's going to rest, right? They're trying to lose, and he's old, and it's a back-to-back, and I don't think he plays, and I think you're right. I think it opens up. How about Diallo at 3.8K and Dort at 4.6? He seems much more solidified either way. But yeah, that's kind of sort of where I'm at as well. Anything else we're monitoring as far as the rest? Oh, tell us this. Did you see the tweet? Is Paul George is Kawhi going to play tonight? Because according to his sister, he is, but we don't know.
That was the other I was about to bring up. So we're still obviously waiting on that. That's going to be an incredibly impactful piece of news. It's just like obviously people probably saw what happened to him. He's bleeding everywhere, but it's just kind of a mouth issue. So I do kind of think that he will play, especially with what happened to them on I believe Sunday, where they just got completely the doors blown off by Dallas. So I think he'll be back. If he's not, obviously Paul George is an incredible target. Luke Kennard, Nick Batum will both become more interesting. There's just a ton to go around there if he doesn't play. But I'm kind of with you. I'm leaning toward him going. Still have Lauri Markkanen, who's I believe a game time decision now, questionable.
Jimmy Butler's already been put out. What it's worth. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean those are really kind of the big things. It's really George Hill, Kawhi, and Lauri Markkanen are the three big question marks that are still left that I think could impact the DFS slate. Other than that, we really don't have we're not really waiting on much else. Obviously, anything can happen, but at this point, those are the three biggest things we're monitoring right now.
All right, we're going to get you out of here. We appreciate your time. Go back and keep fighting with Tuttle and Jamino and everybody else in the projections. Allen, trying to figure it out. Hopefully we get it right. And I do think it's super interesting. We'll let you go, Keach. Much appreciated. Thank you for joining the show. And I do think, Chief, that the 2-hour break where we may not get the news as far as Kawhi, we may not get news for Denver. There may be no news for Denver. I just think that looks weird to me, that line. Maybe I'm just wrong, and maybe I should just call up my local friend and say, hey, I know a guy, and I think it'd take Denver minus 2 points. I just think they're distinctly better than the Kings. I don't care if they're 1 and 2 or whatever they are. All right. Well, you mentioned Toronto. I think that's super interesting. We always care about, what do we obsess over? Minutes, right? And this Toronto team is like, who has more solidified minutes than the Raptors? I just went ahead and pulled this up, and I have it on Fanduel. I'm sure it correlates on DK as well. Siakam, 37 minutes. He's looked good so far this year. Lowry, 36 minutes. Also, it's a homecoming game. He's from Philly. There you go. Bump up the expectation. Show that one. OG Anunoby, 34. FVV, Federer Van Vliet, 34 minutes. Like, lock and load those minutes, and the highest ownership projection for any of those guys is 6%. So the minutes are almost definitely there, and nobody's playing them. But they're all priced where they should be.
Oh, D, you're talking my language now, because I was definitely going to get in that game. So look, first of all, no secrets here. My favorite game is New York-Cleveland. Hasn't changed since last night, okay? I'm going to stack that game. If I had a second game, and this is a strategy I started kind of employing over the years, right? You've got a team, and I think you said it perfectly. You've got Boston and Toronto, right? And I'm throwing in Boston. I'm going to come back there. You got Toronto, minutes are locked in. You've got Boston, minutes are locked in. You've got Indiana, minutes are locked in. Philly, minutes are locked in. But people don't want to play these games, Dean.
No.
because they seem terrible. I mean, they don't have the splash appeal. But here's the reality. These are probably going to be some of the most competitive games, probably on both sides of the floor. And yeah, everything's going to be spread out. But when you look at a team like Toronto and the pricing on them, I think Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet are really strong plays today on both sides in a mid 7K range. These guys are both capable. I'm not saying they're going to. I'm saying these guys are both capable of 50-point outings. Both are, and they get there in different ways. We've seen Fred VanVleet score 28 points, 7-8 assists, 3 or 4 rebounds, 2 or 3, and he gets there. And then we've seen Lowry score like 15 points, 12 assists, 6 or 7 rebounds, 3 or 4, and he gets there. And you look at the end of the night and you say, why did I play these guys? They were mid-7s, and I just avoided them to play all these other people. I'm telling you right now, some of the best guards on the slate to me are Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet for the price in that mid-range area. And I think if you take that approach, that can get you away from some of the chalk. I'm not saying all of it. I'm not getting away from Elf Payton. I can tell you that right now. There's no way I'm doing that. And I know he's a volatile player. I'm willing to accept the volatility for the upside that he provides at the price. If he was 7K, this would be a totally different discussion. He's 4,800 on FanDuel, 5,500 on DK. The price to me warrants me accepting the risk of locking him into my lineups. But you've got these guys, VanVleet, Lowry, priced appropriately, and nobody's going to play him today.
They're market price. There's no discount, and that's why people aren't going to play him. We love our guys that are 5 or 10 or 20% off. That's just kind of the way it works, and it doesn't necessarily mean that's the way it's going to play out, but they're priced what they should be, like the Pacers. They're just kind of TJ Warren's a little bit cheap on FanDuel, but I don't think he makes sense because Tyler Hero's too cheap on FanDuel, and Larry Nance is too cheap on FanDuel. And if you really want to save some money, and revenge game, Otto Porter, it's like 4-3. If you really want to scrape the barrel.
I am waiting on that news. I will say this. I'm plugging this in. This is me personally. Don't know for sure. I think if Lauri Markkanen sits, I said this on the pod last night, if Lauri Markkanen sits, I think Otto Porter gets about 30 minutes. And Otto Porter at 30 minutes in the 4K range is outstanding for what he can do, because he's another guy that we don't need. He doesn't have to score 20. He'll go out there and get, 10 points, 8 rebounds, 5, 6 assists, 2 or 3 steals, a block, and you look at these man, he's got 35. I'm willing to accept that type of risk for the price.
All right. By the way, I'm pulling up DK now. And by the way, if you guys are in the chat, again, if you're asking questions in chat, we probably won't answer them right now, but Devin, our producer, is going to go ahead and pull those questions. We'll answer them later on in the show, assuming he is the gatekeeper, assuming he approves of them. If they're good questions, he'll ask them. And hopefully we're not too wordy. We can answer as many as possible. So I'm pulling up DK, Will, and I'm pulling up the ownership stuff. And again, 10-game slate. This is just what happens in DFS. Mike Muscala currently projected to be 49% owned. We're expecting about 28 minutes, and he's 3.2K. Naz Reid, they bumped up the price, but not enough. He's 5.1K. He is pretty handsy. I believe he is per 36 is 6 fouls. Like, he'll foul out, but he's not going to play 36 minutes. And you don't need him to play 36 minutes because of the price. And also, he's a good fantasy point minute player. So he's perfectly fine. He's got, he's undersized center, really flat shot. I'm not sure if you've watched much Naz Reid in your time, but, we don't care. I don't care how he gets there. And he's 5.1K. He's like 4 or 5 on FanDuel. Really reasonable price. Plumlee's still, he's crushing. He's not necessarily worth that contract, some people would say. But if he's going to play 30 minutes or so, he's going to get a fantasy point minute. And he's still 5.7K on DK, and he's 6K on FanDuel, certainly playable. He's another one of those centers I think it's in the conversation. And again, I'm just running down the ownership stuff. SGA at 20%. Westbrook versus, triple-double on layaway on DK. Is it not? Again, Chicago, that's going to happen for sure. Westbrook versus Curry. That's a tricky one.
It is. In my opinion, I think I still like Curry in this spot. And I know that Westbrook is, look, man, the guy's an elite fantasy point per minute player. I know he's going to go out and do his thing. I trust Westbrook, right? I don't want you to think that. But in my opinion, you've got to take shots on these guys in tournaments. And if you're looking at, ownership right now, Westbrook's at 9.7. We got him projected at 20%. Curry's at 9.6. He's projected for 13%. Look at the projection. We've got Westbrook projected for 52.98 fantasy points and Curry projected for 50.99 fantasy points. I'm willing to accept, the percentage discount and roll Curry out there because, and here's the other thing too, you have to think about. We're not going to have the same opportunities to play Curry maybe until Draymond comes back and this team gets a little better on defense. We've got to play him in these type of spots where we know he can go nuclear. He's not going to do this against Milwaukee. He's not going to do this against the Lakers. We've got to take him against the Atlantas, against the Detroits, against the Charlotte Hornets. Like those are the teams against Memphis. These are the teams we have to play him against.
They're favored.
To get the upside from him. We're not getting the upside until now. When Draymond comes back, this team is definitely going to get a little better defensively. So we'll see what happens with that dynamic. Right now, Draymond's out. Curry's going to have a 30% usage rate. I think he goes nuclear tonight against Detroit. I'm going to favor him over Westbrook for that reason.
All right, let's. We talked about this guy pre-show, and this kind of segues into a little promo here as well too. The Prize Picks promo. We showed off the One Up HQ earlier. You want to get the ownership data and all that. You don't want to get the $10 off coupon. Devin's going to go and drop this link as well too for you guys. You can get a $100 deposit bonus up to $100, and you get 2 months free of RG Premium. The combo premium by using the promo code Grinders. And Prize Picks, just over or under. This kind of segues into one of the guys that we're super excited about tonight, Julius Randle, who I tweeted out, or I'll pull the numbers up in a second, but I'm going to throw it to you. Over, under Julius Randle, I believe you have over, and I think the other over was Drummond, if I'm not mistaken. We kind of hit that one as well. Talk to me about Julius Randle, and I'm going to give you the back end stuff as far as, at least small sample, how ridiculous he's been from a touching the ball perspective and from a passing perspective, which is just really silly.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you take the games you like and then you try to dig in and see what nuggets you can find. And Dean has the nuggets. We've talked about it. I'm not going to get into it. Dean has these nuggets. But I think just even from a point per dollars perspective, when you look at Julius Randle on both sides, he's a little bit higher priced on DK. But I think I'm willing to accept the risk. And you hear me saying that I'm willing to accept the risk for the price. If you look on DK, we've got him projected at 19.8%. Projection of 43.83 fantasy points. I think he's got upside for 50 to 60 in this spot. So, that's the reason I like him. Like I said, one of my favorite games. And I think in terms of a game stack scenario, when you kind of look at the pricing dynamic, it kind of all works together. Elf Payton is a cheap guard. Darius Garland is a cheap guard. And you can get a little bit of Drummond and Randle. And if you're really feeling froggy, you can throw Mitchell Robinson in there as well. And lo and behold, bam, you've got you a perfectly set up game stack there. That's one of the reasons I like Julius Randle. Pretty good projection on him, really good ownership on DK. And I think he's got upside, for more. And I'll just kind of get into that, dude, because we've got this smash percentage, and his smash percentage is 32% today on Fanduel. Don't know what it is on DK. I don't have that one pulled up right in front of me. But what was that, Devin? Yeah, so 32% smash percentage. I mean, I think that's great. If you don't know what smash percentage is, it's just the percentage of times the player is likely to exceed the implied GPP value that he has today. So I like it. I'm going to hand it off to Dean. Dean's got these nuggets. Hopefully this will push you over the edge a little bit.
But I mentioned Jason Tatum in passing before. He's a much better player on DK tonight. I pulled up his smash percentage, and he's the third highest smash based upon the asking price to GPP value. 32% chance of getting there. Just below Naz Reid and Julius Randle. There you go. Wait, I'm sorry. That's power forward specific for what it's worth. As far as all the players, the top smash player tonight, and again, it's Mike Muscala. Of course it is at 46%. And then Russ, and then Curry, and then Drummond. And how can we afford all these players? I have no idea. But yeah, all those guys are well positioned. Just to put a bow on Randle, and again, super, super small samples, but worth noting. Passes made per game. He's not a point guard. He's a big dude. He's third in the NBA as far as passes made per game. He's eighth in the NBA as far as potential assists per game. His assists last year, 3.1, 6.3 this year. And new coach, new system. And it's worth noting, Tibbs had Noah. Remember Noah years ago? And Noah passed the ball a lot too. Somebody pointed that out to me on Twitter. I was like, yeah, it's an interesting point. Different player, obviously. Jimmy Butler officially ruled out, for the record, if you guys are not aware. Yeah, so I love Randle tonight. And people are talking about he's priced too high, and I don't agree. I think that I really think he can smash once again. And you mentioned Mitchell Robinson, and Froggy on DK, I think he's much more likely to be played on Fanduel, where he kind of sort of is optimal, that's an oxymoron, right? He's one of the more high variance players. stay out of foul trouble, and he's good to go. 4.9K in Fanduel. Not only that, the scoring system definitely favors his game with those stocks. He's a guy that can rack up 4 or 5 or 6 blocks in one game and basically get there on just boards and blocks alone. In that area, I know you're playing Drummond, but if you weren't playing Drummond, you got Robinson, you got Bryant, you got Wiseman, and I'm missing one guy. Who's the fourth guy I'm missing? There's somebody else in that. Yeah, Wendell Carter, another highly volatile player.
And really, honestly, I think you can throw Steven Adams in that group as well. It doesn't seem like it, but at 5,400, he's good for 30 to 35.
Okay, I mean he's not getting there for me, but I hear you. Yeah, fair enough. And that's the game we haven't talked about.
But look, this is why I decided to just fade this whole group. You see, because on FanDuel you can only play one of these guys. So if we could mix and match and we had multi-positional flexibility, I'd have a totally different approach. But on FanDuel, I felt like Drummond was the best play. I staked my flag on it, and I'm going to live with the results. And I'm going to get him at much lower ownership today because it's such a big slate and everything. He's still projected only at 8%. So I mean, I think the risk is worth the reward.
I think that's, if anything, too high, 8%, which is just because the way the build works. FanDuel specific. I mean, we're seeing Robinson at 23%. In tournaments, Brian at 13, Bam Adebayo at 11. He's my favorite player in Miami, and without Jimmy, obviously you think in theory Miami's going to open things up. People get more looks. I think Nunn's going to start. Because I think they want to keep Dragic in the second unit. I don't know if it matters or how much it matters. Is he still minimum on DK? If he's like 3K, then Nunn could be interesting. He also might DMP. Like that might happen too. Like we've seen that before.
It's possible.
Yeah. Let's see. How much is he? Oh, he's 4K. I mean, we talked about this pre-show. He thinks he's the best shooter on the court, which is something you kind of sort of, he's that Deion Waiters mentality where I should be taking every single shot. And we like that, just as long as the coach allows him to do that. It's kind of sort of somewhat interesting. Has he even played it this year? I feel like he hasn't, but I could be wrong. If he has, he's
played a few minutes.
8 minutes. He played 8 minutes, and he didn't do anything in his 8 minutes. But yeah, a hero on FanDuel at 4.5 is just the wrong price. Larry Nance at 5.5 is just the wrong price. You could play Nance on DK, not as appealing. But we know Kevin Love is out, obviously. Porter is still out there for Cleveland, and I think there's one more body. The rookie, I'm forgetting his name, Okoro. Yeah, he's not playing basketball this evening either. I don't know. Are we ready to bring in Devin? Let's have the chat to load up some more questions. I'm sure Devin's got a whole bunch compiled for us.
Let's go ahead and roll these questions, Dean. I mean, we're about 12 minutes out. I think we'll have a fair amount of questions tonight because there's some different ways you can go. We've got some chalky players, but I think we can get into questions. Devin,
I think we can do it. Yeah, I think we can
do it. Are you going to be spinning around tonight, Devin? Are you going to have some fun with your video? What's going on?
We'll have to keep that sparing, Dean. We don't want to pull all the cards out on the first week.
Diminishing value return. Yeah, go
ahead. Justin Jones would like to know, is Bradley Beal, Russ, and Steph too much star power with Muscala value?
Yeah, it's funny. Like nobody's playing Bradley Beal, and like that matchup is good, right? And it's a good run back as well, too. Different game. So what are your thoughts there, Chief? I heard Beal, I heard Curry. Who was the third guy there, Devin?
Russ.
Okay.
I think if you're doing that, I'm going to assume that's on DK. That's my assumption. And I think if you're doing that, then, you're really going to have to nail your 4 and 5K players, because if you're playing Russ, Beal, and Curry, I mean, all those guys are over 9K. Which in my head, you throw Muscala in there, that's probably going to give you, and I'm doing it in my head, it's probably going to give you, 4,600 average, maybe remaining, roughly somewhere up in there. And now you got to nail everybody else. So now you're hoping
Muscala, here we go.
Yeah. And now you're hoping another 3K player goes off. I think it's more optimal if you run 2 of the 3 with Muscala rather than 3 of them with Muscala.
That's very, go ahead, Devin.
I was just going to say, it sounds like a mouthful of chalk then.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, but chalk is good.
Especially in basketball too. Yeah.
Yes, you can play basketball chalk much faster. You can play chalk in any other sport. And I would just say maybe play Levine instead of Curry, and you can save some salary that way, and you got some game correlation as well too. All right, well, what do you have for us, Devin?
All right, Legit wants to know, Portis or Reed better today?
Reed.
Yeah, I mean,
Reed's got the opportunity. Portis, if this game's competitive, I kind of looked at it. If this game's competitive, I don't think Portis is going to get up to that 20-something minute mark. unless they're just going to be down on Brook Lopez. If this game is competitive, I don't think Portis gets 20+ minutes. So I definitely side with Reed.
That was a quick answer too, so that has to stand for something, right? Dean, you got?
I mean, Reed's the better play if you want to be goofy, but I don't want to be goofy there. I'm playing Reed. I'll be goofy somewhere else.
All right, I can already smell us taking too long on these, so I'm going to put us in lightning round. Mike wants to
What's
know,
the opposite of lightning? What's the opposite weather?
Molasses? I mean, I don't know about
solstice,
weather, but
we need Kevin Roth will answer that question
a
on the
blitz,
next show if you guys are premium.
A blizzard. That's the opposite. Let's go with that. All right.
Mike wants to know DK Cash, Dragic and Tatum, or Paul George and Larry Nance.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not playing Dragic. I mean, he should be fine, and he's been super efficient, but he's still not going to start. Like, he does kind of crush in that second unit. But Nance, yeah, I like the second pairing more. Your thoughts, Will?
Let's go with that. I like the second one.
All right. Mark wants to know Booker or Paul George on FanDuel.
I have thoughts. You can go first.
If it's cash, I would say Paul George. If it's tournaments, I say Booker.
Yeah, so my thing with Booker is, like, it's clearly obvious what's going on there with Chris Paul, the veteran, great ball handler, and Booker's potential assists are taking a hit. Like, that's just going to happen. So I'm not sure. I think there's other guys that are better priced than Booker is. It doesn't mean he can't put like 40 points in the bucket and just get 4 assists and like be perfectly fine to get that way. But I prefer other routes over Booker. And George is the tricky one. Like, if you know Kawhi is not playing, it's George and not even a conversation.
Well, let's talk about that real quick, Devin, and I promise we'll move to the next question.
Go ahead.
Devin's
Paul George
so
is a good play whether Kawhi plays or not tonight at the price. Like, that's what we have to know on FanDuel. FanDuel specifically. He's 7,600. I would play Paul George even if Kawhi is playing at that price. On DraftKings, where he's 8,500, he's still okay, but not necessary. On FanDuel, Paul George can still get 45 to 50 fantasy points even if Kawhi Leonard plays. He's a good play there no matter what.
Nice.
Yeah, we talked about that last night with like Anthony Davis. Like, worst case scenario, you have Anthony Davis and LeBron's playing with him. Now, it didn't work out, but like still, like, you're fine having Anthony Davis. Go ahead there, Devin.
Ty wants to know for single entry, is Curry a smart play with all the ownership leaning towards Westbrook?
Yes. Curry.
Sure. I like Curry.
Yeah, would like to know any love for Toscano at 3-1 on DK starting.
Ugh. I mean, what's he going to play?
I can't do it.
20 minutes, 22 minutes? Like, you really got to thread the needle there. And like, again, if you're playing him in lieu of Muscala, I'm not doing that. I understand why people will. I think you're better off paying a little bit more for the OKC guys that, like, assuming that Hill is out, like Hamidou Diallo could be interesting and Dort can be interesting. One of those guys can get there. Both can get there.
We're going to need to start doing these questions where if you don't like it, just respond with a quick noise. Because I could glean that answer just from Dean's little, ugh.
Can I do like a nah wave or something? I guess Matic has that. I don't know. I got to call my own.
Let me say this. I do like Darius Bazley tonight at 5,800 on DK. I think he's a great play, especially with Mike Muscala in there and not going to get all the rebounds. Bazley should have more rebounds tonight. Do like Bazley at 5,800 on DK. Just want to put that out there.
Nice.
Really cheap on Yahoo.
Robert coming at us with Booker and Levine. Oh, this is a 3v3. Oh, no.
Oh,
Raise
we
the
warned
alarms.
about the 3v3s. Devin, you're the gatekeeper. This is your fault.
It snuck by. Booker and Levine and Tobias Harris, or Beal, DeLon Wright, and Kelly Oubre FanDuel tournament.
First one.
Why are we chasing DeLon? We're not chasing DeLon Wright. Like, Blake's back and Rose is back.
All right, Robert, you're getting good on this one. Got 2 questions. Any cheap power forward you'd recommend if we go Drummond at center?
We should say
Or DK or FanDuel. Like,
yeah, specify. That's my bad.
Previous question was FanDuel, so let's assume FanDuel.
Nas Reed is 4,500. Like, that's the answer.
Yeah, but is there anybody not named Nas that's interesting as a cheap? Muscala's 4-1 on FanDuel, and people aren't going to play him there. I mean,
I was about
maybe
to say
10%.
there's a lot of people not named Nas, Dean.
Okay, here I got one for you. We got this note before the show, and this is I'm just first realizing how cheap he is. Davis Bertans is going to get a minute increase, and you, Devin, I think you were telling me up to 25 is what you saw, and if he gets 25 points, yeah, all right. Well, I mean, what's the?
Hey, I don't want to get all technical on you here, Dean. Like,
what is the middle? He's 4K, and he's a guy that definitely can get going. Like, and we're seeing 0.1% projected ownership. Now I have to hit the refresh button probably on this, but that's a little interesting, isn't it, Will?
It is. I'm still not playing Davis Bertans today.
But again, he's 4K and he's like 1%.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm also not playing Mike Muscala.
Yeah.
I'm hitting the X button on Muscala.
On FanDuel.
Yes. On DK, he might be a necessary evil.
Yeah, just because, again, you're going to like your FanDuel lineup so much more than your DK lineups today. Go ahead.
All right. Money Fingers returns. FanDuel tournament. 2 good plays from each team from the projected fastest pace 2 teams on the slate. I can repeat if needed.
What do you have for me, Will?
Projected 2 fastest paced teams on the slate. I don't know exactly who those guys are right now, but if you give me a second,
Chicago, Washington.
I can pull it real quick. Hold on. Pace of play.
While you're looking that up, we got a Jamino
Okay,
comment.
so it's Detroit. Actually, the pace of play is Detroit and the Wizards. Those are the 2 fastest paced teams as of right now on the slate. So if I had to take 2 from Detroit, I'll come back to that one. If I had to take the Wizards, it would probably be Beal and Russ. Detroit, it would honestly probably be Derrick Rose and Blake Griffin.
Plumlee's still pretty cheap, but I just think that, Blake being back and Rose being back, it kind of mucks things up. And Blake is 6'9", which is perfectly fine. Yeah. Well, nice, what some would say, I suppose. I was trying to think of an adjective. It took me too long to get there. But all right, Devin, what do you have for us?
Donnie would like to know, what's your favorite way to flip construction on this slate?
I think what Will's doing on FanDuel is spending up for center. I think that's the best way to do it.
I was going to say, that's a Will question for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely paying up. And then I think if you want to flip construction, this is always the easy way to do it on this stars and scrubs. Just don't play the scrubs and build in the mid-range. Take your Fred VanVleets, take your Jaylen Browns, take your, Malcolm Brogdons. And, you can still play a 5 or a 4K guy, and your lineup's going to look totally different because you're not going to have any of those chalk 3K guys. And if everybody in that lineup gets 50, you win.
I just want to say this as have some lineups where you have 2 or 3 guys left of the late slate. If goofiness happens, you want to have flexibility. If you're debating between an 8 o'clock guy and a 10 o'clock guy, take the 10 o'clock guy. And maybe nothing changes, but you buy yourself 2 hours worth of information, and sometimes that's really valuable.
Agreed. Phil would like to know, Blake and Lou Will or Nance and Anthony Edwards?
Good. I really need to know the site today. Seriously, right. I think site is important.
Phil, if you could drop your what site you're talking about, we'll go on to the next one here. We got
Lou Will's pretty interesting if Kawhi doesn't play, but we're thinking he plays if you trust his sister.
Things you never thought you'd say, but it's 2020.
The chat is telling us that George Hill is
I was just going to say that.
Predicted.
I got it right now, 42 seconds ago.
Hamidou Diallo season on DK at least, and Dort as well. I think those guys become interesting. And
I'm telling you, I like Baisley.
Yeah, he's playable too. And also, SGA, we should mention him. He's a really strong play also that yes. I'm not sure where he's going to land as far as the ownership, but we know he gets all the usage in that team at this point. What do you have for us, Devin?
We got about a minute, so we're going to run through this. Josh Hart, Cam Johnson, DK GPP. Which one?
Neither.
All right. What about Knox as a pivot off Danny Green?
I don't like either.
Same for you, Will?
Yeah, neither.
I need secret option C.
FanDuel single entry, Jokic or Drummond?
Drummond.
I love Jokic. If he plays tonight, he is insane. He's one of the best fantasy players in the world. Gallagher tweeted out his 18 passes from last night. I gush over Jokic and love him. I will stop. We gotta go.
Lightning
round. Say goodbye. Yeah, well, that's it.
Phil followed back up. DK. So Blake and Lou Will or Nance Anthony Edwards? DK. Last one.
Let's go Nance Anthony Edwards.
All right, Dean, take us home.
Hey, man.
That was Devin. Oh, go ahead, Will.
Do not forget, Card Stock After Lock, 7:30. Be there or be square. Dino, Willow, Tambo, Devino. We're all going to be there. Come check us out.
Synergy, 7:30 tonight. We're going to be tilting some basketball and we'll talk about some sports cards. It'll be good times for sure. If you guys are premium members, next up, it's Andy Means. Andy Means, STL Cards, Kevin Roth. Devin, thank you for producing. Will, I'll see you in 2 hours. Not even.
Yes, sir.
I was Dean. Enjoy your basketball. Hit the like button on your way out. We much appreciate it. We're out of here. Ho!